Okay, I think we can start now. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa man tabi'ahu bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu and Jum'ah Mubarakah. So first of all, would like to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to be here with you today. And today it is a blessed day, that is Jum'ah. And I have to thank as well the International Institute for Muslim Unity for organizing this program. And the most important thing that we have to thank our professor here, who is going to give a speech for us related to the topic that we have shared with you. But as usual, before we proceed with the talk, let me just introduce a bit the speaker, then we'll listen to him, inshallah. So when you look at Professor Dr. Mohammed Zaki Kheder, he is currently a president, International Computing Institute for Quran Islamic Sciences, and he was previously professor at Jordan University and Mosul University since 1981. When you look at his intellectual background and development, so he received his Bachelor in Science in Electrical Engineering from University of Baghdad, Iraq in 1965, and PhD from Sheffield University, UK in 1972. And he joined the University of Mosul as an instructor in 1965, where in this university he played a very important role in the establishment of the Department of Electrical Engineering in 1972. And since then he held the position as head of department from 1972 to 1978. And later on, he contributed a lot to the establishment of Computer Center during the year of 1974. And there he held the position as a director of the center from 1974 to 1981. And then he established the Department of Computer Science in 1975. Now, when I look at his expertise, and if we said that related to administrative work and as well the intellectual background. So here we can say that briefly that he was a member of the Jordan Society of Miracles in Quran and Sunnah, and life senior member of IEEE since 1968, and an editor-in-chief of the International Journal on Islamic Applications in Computer Science and Technologies, and leader of Midad al-Bayan for computerizing the Holy Quran. And that is a project that started from 2015 until now. So we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala this will become a reality. And at the same time, Prof, he has received few awards in a national and international levels. And he published many books and articles in the field of computer sciences and engineering from the Islamic perspective. And today's topic is related to his expertise, as it is focusing on one lunar calendar for the Muslim Ummah, or for the Ummah. Now, before we invite our respected professor, so I would like just only to remind about the flow of the talk today. So we are going to listen to our professor for 50 minutes, then we are going to open for question and answer for a period of 20 minutes, and that will be the whole program. So without any further delay, Prof. Mohammed Zaki, please, tafaddal. So now you have 50 minutes for your talk. May Allah make it easy.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa afdal salatu wa atammu taslim ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Thank you, Doctor, for this introduction. I'm pleased to talk to you about this important topic, which is needed for the Ummah at the present moment. We are at a critical moment where people are different in day of starting fasting or starting Eid and other Muslim calendar events. This is why I selected this topic as a little sharing in bringing Muslims together better than what is happening now. My talk is about one lunar calendar for the Ummah. Allah says in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, فالق الإصباح وجعل الليل سكنا والشمس والقمر حسبانا ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. And he said also in Surah Ar-Rahman, الشمس والقمر بحسبان. I'm going to give little background about the moon motion, moon sightseeing, some religious background, and then I would present the proposed lunar calendar, ending with some conclusions. Starting with some information about the moon. The figure you see shows the Earth and the moon. Actually, the Earth rotates around the sun with a center of gravity at about 1,700 kilometers from the surface. This is because the Earth and the moon together, they are treated as one solid identity which will move around the sun. So it's not the center of the Earth which rotates in elliptical shape, but the whole Earth and moon rotates around the sun in this way. So what is known as elliptical path of the Earth around the sun is not true. As you can see, the Earth and the moon center, which is here somewhere, this will rotate around the sun in elliptical form, but because the moon is coming here away from the sun and here nearer to the sun, the Earth moves in this way. Now this complicated motion of the Earth and the moon as well will result into variation of the lunar month length, as we shall see later on. What makes the matter more complicated is that the moon rotates around the Earth in a plane which is different from the plane at which the Earth moves around the sun. So this is the elliptical plane of the Earth around the sun. And this is the plane of the motion of the moon, which makes 5.2 degrees from the plane of the Earth around the sun. Now this will make the matter more complicated. Now, as you know, the Earth is inclined by 23.5 degrees. The axis of the Earth inclination is 23.5. The inclination of the plane of the moon is 5.2 with the plane of rotation of the Earth. This will make the inclination of the moon at the equator, 23.5 plus or minus 5.2. So it will be 28.7 or 18.3. So this will make the motion of the moon more complicated. Now let us go to the eclipse. The eclipse is the case when the moon falls in between the earth and the sun. So we may have three types of eclipses. A total one, when the moon shades all the sun annular part of it like that, or partial like that. Now this actually occurs in something like that. So the moon will start like that, increasing its shade of the sun till something like that, and then it starts to go away. Now, of course, this phenomena does not occur every month. Why? Because of the reasons which I mentioned just a month ago. That is, the axis of rotation of the moon differs from month to month. Now, such eclipse may take up to 4 hours from start to the end. Now, this shows the case. Here's the moon shading the light of the sun. Now you can see here, some places on Earth may have total eclipse. Some places, like here, will have partial eclipse. Now, why this is important for us in lunar month? Now, actually, lunar month starts at this moment of the eclipse. The lunar month starts from this moment and ends at similar moment after a month. But by this, about 27 days, the Earth itself has moved, as you can see here. The Earth is here, and the moon is here or here. Now, after 1 month, it will be here. While the Earth has moved this, so we shall not see the new moon except about 2 days later, and it will be 29.53 days. This is why there will be different definition for a new moon. Local new moon, when local point on Earth, like that, center of the sun, center of the moon, and center of the Earth on a straight line. Actually, this is not exact like that, because the moon may be a little higher than this straight line. So we can say that these 3 points are on the same plane rather than same straight line. This is called central new moon. While local new moon, the center of the sun, center of the moon, and center of and a point on the earth will be on straight line or straight or a plane. Now, this means that a point like that here may differ about 4 hours from a point here when we speak about local new moon. However, what we are going to talk about is the central new moon, this one, and we shall forget about this because this differs from one location to another. So the central new moon it's one for all locations on Earth, while local new moon is that special for certain locations. So it differs from one place to another. What we are going to concentrate on is the central new moon. Now, the length of the month may differ like that. That means, as you can see here, 29.83, somewhere here, this is the longest month. And this is the shortest month, which is 29.3. So it is not true that the lunar month is 29 and a half. It varies from maximum to minimum, and this way of change is different from one month to another. So for example, here you find that the maximum is something like 29.65, and this minimum may be 29.45. Cannot say that the next of the month is constant. Now this shows the variation more precise. As you can see here, something like 29.83, and this is about 29.3. The average lunar month is 29.530589. Now, 1,000 years ago, it was like that. And after 1,000 years from now, it will be like that. That means the length of the month is changing. At the moment is 29 days, 12 hours, 44 minutes, and 3 seconds. And as I said, the maximum lunar month is 29.83, minimum 29.27. This is, but as you know, we calculate the month as either 29 or 30. So it is possible that successive months will be 29, 30, 29, 30, and so on. Or maybe successive lunar months, 29, 29, or 30, 30. Even maybe the 3 months, 29, 29, 29, or 30, 30, 30. In very seldom cases, we may have 4 months with successive 30 days, 30, 30, 30, 30. And this occurred in 1946, 1947, in 2000, 2001, 2008, 2009, and it will occur after about 40 years from now, 2062, 63. Now, what we are bothering with is the sightseeing of the moon, because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Sumu liru'yatihi wa aftaru liru'yatihi." Fast when you see the moon and break your fasting when you see it again. So it is what we see, or when we see the moon is important, and not the moment when it is a new moon. Now, the difference between the two may be up to 12 hours, or in some references, 10 hours or 8 hours. Now, I would emphasize on two things. There is a unanimous agreement between those astronomers about the moment of a new moon. So a new moon, there is no question about the moment when the new moon occurs for the whole world. While there is no unanimous agreement among astronomers about when we can see the new moon. Some say we need 12 hours, some say we need 10 hours, and we shall see the conditions for sightseeing. Now, the new moon is, of course, seen on the west when the sun sets like that. The moon will be behind the sun by a certain angle. This is called angular distance. And the moon is above the horizon by a distance, which is called distance of the moon from the horizon. These two angles are important for sightseeing of the moon. Of course, the moon will end up like that. It will set here. So these angles are important. Of course, the moon not necessarily to be here. It may be above the sun like that, or on the right side. So as you can see in these three pictures, the moon is very thin. Now here, the moon is directed leftwards. Here, directed upward, and here, directed right way. So this depends upon the case when the moon is here, or here, or here. So if the moon is here, it will be like that. If the moon is here, it will be like that, upward. And if it is here, it will be directed towards the left. As you can see, the moon is very thin at this moment. So it is very difficult to see it while it is in this position. Now, this made a lot of confusions in claiming seeing the moon. In many years, witnesses claimed seeing the crescent before actually new moon. So they are mistaking. They haven't seen the moon, but they claimed seeing the moon. In many countries, some cases starting fasting according to political wishes dictated by the rulers. At the moment, starting of fasting is addressed in each country differently from the others. So you may find two nearby towns at the border between two countries with few kilometers or few meters away. They fast or break their fasting at different dates. What is more astonishing, some of the minorities in Western countries make the Eid at 3 or 4 different days. Each of them, each group would refer to their leaders back home or their countries and so on. In some countries, like England or Holland or Sweden, you find that you cannot see the moon even after 3 or 4 days after the new moon. So it is a must to calculate. There is no possibility of seeing the moon in some cases, in such cases. Now, in one research, there has been calculations of 47 years, the different ways of starting the month. In 28 months, there was no way to see the moon. 17, it was impossible. 2 months, the months were 30 days. 1 month was possible by sightseeing by telescope. 1 month by naked eyes. So there is even 5 cases where Sha'ban was counted as 28 days. And in one case, Sha'ban was 31 days. So really there is a mess of watching the moon and relying on witnesses who may be mistaken in giving the Shahada. Now, what are the conditions for yes. Sorry. I'm going to give some information about next Ramadan. Next Ramadan will be in March, next March. On 22nd of March, the conjunction time, that means the new moon, will occur at 20:23 local time in Mecca. 8 o'clock, 23 minutes in the evening. That means that day on the 22nd, sorry, on the 21st. On 21st, at 20:23. That means on the 22nd evening, there may be watching of the moon. This is how it looks like on 22nd of March. This green area, which includes America, Africa, Middle East, Europe, there will be possibility of seeing the moon by naked eye, while this area will be able to see the moon by telescope. So it means that the next day, which is the 23rd, Thursday, 23rd, will be Ramadan. So Ramadan will be on Thursday, inshallah, 23rd of March. Now let's go to Shawwal. Shawwal, the new moon conjunction will occur at 7 o'clock on the 20th of April at 7 o'clock, 7:12 in the morning, local time of Mecca. That means there will be enough time till the evening to see the moon, which will be inclined. That means there will be about this will be the case. The moon can be seen in this area by telescope, and possibility that maybe some people will be able to see it, and most probably the Shawwal will start on 21st of April. Hence, Ramadan is going to be 29 days accordingly. Now I'm going to go to religious background. Now there is one term you find in the books of fiqh, which is called اختلاف المطالع, different moon sight. Is the statement that every spot has its different moon sight? From astronomical point of view, yes, it is approximately true. Locations have different moon sight according to latitude, longitude, and height above the sea level. But each country is considering common moon sight now, even if it is not seen in some areas in the country. So we are following borders of country rather than actual sightseeing. Now, unified lunar month acceptable in one country in spite of the impossibility of seeing the moon in some parts of the country. Certainly, it's more logical to accept same lunar month in locations with the same possibility of moon sight seeing. Now, of course, those who are claiming different sightseeing refer to certain hadith. That is, at the time of Muawiyah, Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu asked Karib, who came from Syria, from Sham, he asked him, what day you started Ramadan? He said, on Friday. Have you seen the moon yourself the evening before? He said, yes. Ibn Abbas said, and Muawiyah, who was the ruler of Syria then, has he started the fasting and all the people? He said, yes. Ibn Abbas said, but we saw it on Saturday, and we shall continue till we see the next moon, or we complete 30 days. When he was asked, don't you rely upon the sights seen in Syria? He said, no. This is what Prophet ﷺ ordered us. While on the opposite, Ibn Umar anhu said, people saw the moon, and I told the Prophet ﷺ that I saw the moon. He ordered people to fast without any further details. Now, Al-Hanafi school, the fatwa states that sightseeing of the moon will look no difference of sightseeing of the moon with location. If somebody saw the moon in one city and the second one didn't see it, they are obliged to fast following the sight of the first. Those in the east obliged to follow those in the west if they saw the moon. Ibn Abidin, a scholar in the 13th century, stated that also as a supreme fatwa of Hanafi school following the hadith, sumu li'ru'yatihi wa aftaru li'ru'yatihi. Maliki and Shafi'i schools, the fatwa of Imam Malik, Imam Layth bin Sa'ad, stated also by some Shafi'i scholars, some Kufis and Hanbalis, it is a must to fast in some place if they knew that another place saw the moon. However, other Maliki scholars didn't accept that, stating that each location has its own moon site. Some Maliki scholars limited that by being not far away in distance. How far is that? There is a limit to distance. Some said like distance between Hijaz and Iraq, or if it is near between Kufa and Baghdad, it is considered as short distance. Some said considering countries which are of the same site. Some claimed or gave fatwa that it should be not more than 83 kilometers, reported by Juwayni and Ghazali. Now, Sarkhasi gave another fatwa. Now, many of the scholars accepted transmitting the news of seeing the moon. Among them, Ibn Taymiyyah, he said that the distance of shortening the prayer has no relation with the moon sightseeing. Once the transmission of a news is possible, those who received it are obliged to accept and do accordingly. Now, what's the opinion about using astronomical calculations? First opinion, no value of calculations. Second opinion, it's possible to use calculations to refuse witnesses whose claim contradicts astronomical calculations. Third opinion, it is possible to use astronomical calculations to start lunar months, since calculations are so advanced that it should be accepted as facts. Evidence of first group saying the Prophet ﷺ, we are illiterate nation, we neither write nor calculate. The month is either 29 or 30. He also said, fast for seeing the moon and break your fasting for seeing it. If there is a cloud, you estimate for it. Now, accepting astronomical calculations, Sheikh Ahmed Shakir, more than 80 years ago, said, since the Muslim nation departed from being illiterate and started writing and calculating, we have to return to the more sure evidence of calculations of starting the lunar month. Sheikh Mustafa Zarqa proposed for the Fiqh Islamic League in Mecca to accept astronomical calculations, but his proposal was not accepted by majority by that time. Sheikh Yusuf Qaradawi said, following the evidence of astronomical calculations should be accepted on the basis of following the more sure, since the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ allowed us to follow less evidence of witnesses. It will not refuse higher way of evidence, which is the calculation. Now, using scientific opinion of scholars about unifying lunar calendar, unifying lunar calendar is universally accepted within borders of countries. The reasoning is after Ibn Abbas fatwa, in spite of differences between neighboring cities near borders of two countries, in spite of accepted political authorities are not binding by Islamic rules. Now, later on, Islamic League in 1406 decided that no necessity to unify beginning of the lunar month. They said every fatwa organization in different countries is free to take its own decisions. Later on, the same league amended its previous decision to say, if it is proved in one country that the moon has been seen, it is a must for all Muslims to accept that for fasting, starting the month and ending of the month. Basically, lunar month, now this is in 2016, there was a conference in Istanbul, and these were decisions. Basically, lunar month start with sightseeing of the moon by naked eye or by any means. Once it's seen anywhere, it should be accepted everywhere. So there will be one international lunar calendar. If the sights occurred before 12 midnight Greenwich time, it is accepted. If the angle of the moon is 8 degrees and 5 degrees above the horizon, as the now actually this decision is difficult to apply. Now we shall see why. Now, accordingly, there were 3 different opinions. The first opinion is to consider the Earth as divided into 3 regions. America, one region, Europe and Africa and Middle East, second region, and Far East, the third region. Now, if the moon is seen here, then in Africa, Europe, and America, they will fast. If it's seen here, America will fast, but the East will not fast. This is the first opinion. The second opinion is to divide the Earth into 2 regions. The old Africa, Europe, and Asia, one region, America, another one. Now, our proposal is to consider the whole world as one region. So our proposal is lunar month start next day if the new moon occurred before noon of Mecca. Now, as you can see, previously we said we refer to Greenwich midnight. Now, why Greenwich? Greenwich is not a Muslim area, nor this line is defined by any religious background. So, if we define the noon of Mecca, it is almost sure that the moon can be seen somewhere west of Mecca, and the dawn has not yet started in the east of Muslim world. If the new moon occurs after noon of Mecca, the lunar month starts the day after the following one. It is probable that the moon may not be seen anywhere. So, date line where the day will change is the opposite line of Mecca and not the opposite line of Greenwich. This is more nearer to religious background. Now, as an example, on one day, Ramadan 1445, that means not the next Ramadan, the Ramadan after, the conjunction time will be at 12 noon, which will be slightly before Dhuhr prayer in Mecca. So in this case, as you can see, the moon can be seen in South America here, and it's possible to start Ramadan next day. So uniting the lunar month will come in fulfilling the verse in Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Inna hadhihi ummatukum ummatan wahida wa ana rabbukum fa'budun. The other verse, Wa inna hadhihi ummatukum ummatan wahidatan wa ana rabbukum fattaqun. This is the proposed lunar calendar for the years up to 1450 for different months, the starting of each month. In conclusion, calculations for unifying lunar calendar is possible according to the possibility of moon sight, and it is possible to refer to more than one reference to be exact about the exact new moon. Unifying lunar calendar based on Mecca noon time has some religious reasoning to support it. This almost near to Istanbul criteria. Implementation needs political decisions to support it by main Muslim countries. Unifying lunar calendar brings Muslims nearer to each other. We need to publicize the calendar to help people to understand and to be nearer to implement it in the future, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallah fiqh, dear Prof. Muhammad Zaki. This is a very insightful talk that you have shared with us. And based on if you allow me to just to make a brief summary about what you have discussed here, And indeed, we have faced this problem when it comes to, even within the same country, we had differences when it comes to the beginning of the fasting month of Ramadan, as well as the end of the fasting month of Ramadan. So that has created many conflicts among the Muslims, even in recent times when you look at the astronomical calculation have been made there. And you made it very clear that the problem that might be here that we are facing because depends on the leadership of the country that the people are following. So that might create a problem. And of course, you provided the evidences from the sayings of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam related to the authenticity and the differences that Muslim scholars had when it comes to the sightseeing of the moon in one particular country. And you provided examples related to especially the one that was between Mecca and Syria during the time of Muawiyah. And that is very, important example that will clarify the picture even for our time today. And your proposal, it is very important because that will unite the Muslims to have one particular lunar calendar that can help them to start, especially when you talk about the fasting month of Ramadan. That is very important event for all Muslims. So I believe that this will benefit Muslims in our contemporary time. And since we have the astronomical calculation that does not contradict the sources, and you mentioned here, you provided the sources from the Quran, the text related to the unity of the Muslim Ummah. So there are many other things that can unite the Muslims beside this very important topic that we have discussed today. So Barakallah Fik, Prof. Muhammad Zaki, of course, we are expert in this field. So that reminded me back to the high school and the primary school, and you have to have this astronomical calculation from the scientific point of view. Something that we have studied a long time ago, but this is very important when I look at it from a very comprehensive understanding that combines both science and the Islamic worldview. So Barakallah Fik, Prof. So now, after this brief summary, and I would like to invite those who were listening to the talk now, if you have any comment or any question, you can directly direct it to Prof, or you can raise your hand. So we have another 20 minutes for question and answer. So please, this is a very important topic that we are, as Prof mentioned, we are facing it in our almost every year we are facing this problem. Yes, please, any one of you would like. Prof, my apology at the beginning, I couldn't listen to you because I had a problem with the connection. I just went out, but this is what I captured from your talk. Maybe that was just only a few minutes to, 3 or 4 minutes that I couldn't join the talk at the beginning because after we started, there was a problem with the connection. So it seems like they are still thinking to look at the topic. So, Prof, maybe I would like to just maybe a simple clarification. I would like to have it like when you talk about the different Muslim schools of thought, and you mentioned here that they have different, differences when it comes to the unification of the lunar calendar. And you know that Muslims today, they are divided according to the schools of thought. So will that create a problem if we are going to have this calculation from based on the astronomical perspective, if the followers are very keen to follow the schools of thought related to the opinion that are given by respected imams?
Yes, this is unfortunate that you find that some short sighting of some imams who are followed by a lot of people may be emphasizing their opinion and differing from the other, even in the same city. You find, I remember when I was in England, we used to see prayers of Eid the first day, then the second day another group, then the third day another group will come and make Eid prayers. So in the same city, you find all these differences. So really, this is we feel sad for this situation. Now, I would add one thing, probably this slide, which I missed to show, why there is difference in seeing the moon. Now, of course, watching the moon need to occur after the new moon is definitely there. So you cannot watch the moon before that time. And this is what happened in some cases, that they watched the moon before that, and some people would come and say they have seen the moon. Now the moon is so thin that even some mistakes can occur often. Now the second point in seeing the moon sets after the sunset with enough time, because the sunlight is so sharp that it would shade or may make the seeing of the thin moon very difficult. So the minimum angles which I mentioned just now need to be enough 5 or 8 angles. Longitude and latitude of location of the monitor. Atmosphere should be pure, no clouds, no dust. The person who watches the moon should be experienced, so he should know where to watch. Of course, some people with strong sight may be able to see the moon, others cannot see. Of course, it's better to watch the moon in groups, and there should be willingness in monitoring. Of course, height above the sea level is also important. Now, of course, some people who are specialized in sightseeing the moon month after month are more experienced to know exact location of the moon. Now, of course, we can help them by giving, for example, as you can see here, we give the exact angle of the longitude of the moon, 36 degrees, 24 minutes and 58 seconds, and latitude, and the sun longitude and sun latitude, how long it will stay after sunset, 11 hours. How long it will stay in the sky, 24 minutes. So all this information, we can give them to the monitor so that he would be able to locate the exact location of the moon and give the shahada. So really, we not only give the calculations, but give some help to the monitor who will be able to see the moon exactly in the location which can be defined.
Yes, still we are waiting for others to whether comment or ask any question. Even now, the factors that you mentioned are made it very clear, Prof. This is the flow. This is very important. If I may say, Prof, now during the time of Andalusia, that they say we had the astronomical development. Was there any, based on your experience and readings? Because the beauty here that I can see, you have combined both the scientific approach and the Islamic perspective, and that provides this outcome. Now, during the time, was there any attempt to make this kind of unification about the lunar calendar? Since they started to read from the astronomic perspective, they became very developed during the time, if I may say so, based on my humble understanding.
Well, actually, you see, during the last decades, about 3 or 4 decades, there has been many meetings and discussions, and actually the problem is not from the side of the astronomical specialists, but it is from the religious and political side. Now, we find differences among Muslim scholars. Many of them would stick to one teaching of one school of thought and do not accept others. This is one thing. The other thing is that different countries start Ramadan according to their own wishes. Sometimes they give it to the Mufti. Sometimes they would interfere with the decision of the Mufti. Sometimes defined by or in advance, they defined the criteria for starting the month. For example, there was some people or some countries who thought we should not depend upon seeing the moon, but upon the birth of the moon or the new moon. Now, of course, this is different because as I show you, there will be few hours difference between the starting of the new moon and the actual possibility of seeing the moon. So what we refer to is seeing the moon rather than the birth or the new moon. So really, this made some difference according to political decisions. Now, what we really need is unanimous decision between at least the big Muslim countries if they decide to refer to certain criteria, and the criteria which I proposed could be the best one as I see. Hence, they would announce, once they announced the starting of Ramadan in one country, then all the Muslim countries should abide by. This is really important, and we have to publicize this issue, at least to make decisions of unanimous agreement nearer in the future, inshallah.
Okay, Barakallah Fik. There is one, I see a comment just now we got in the chat room. It is mentioned by Ahmed Guven that there are two type calculations and observation in order to conduct worldly matters and religious duties. We observe moon in yearly religious duties except daily prayers. People need sun observation in order to follow their cultivation. I mean, these two are so necessary for human beings, and it is rahmah from Allah. We as Muslims have to be expert in both calculation, observation. We have to resolve this political disagreement among Muslims. This is a comment that is made by him, Prof. He does agree when he mentioned this, the differences that we have and the decision is given to whom. So this is very important for us to solve this problem. So it means that the leadership should be well equipped with this kind of information.
That's right. That's right.
Please, would like to, anyone else? We have another 3 minutes because today is Jummah. Prof, you mentioned here not only the fasting month, but it is strange even during the Eid al-Adha, there is a problem, you know. I mean, I don't know how do you look at it because when sometimes the Arafah is in Mecca in Hajj, then others are celebrating during, fasting during that period of time. So it's not related only to fasting. There should be this calendar should be. Is it applicable to that as well?
Yeah, of course. Of course, when we follow certain way of calculations of the for the month, this will occur for all the months, and including the Hijjah. Now, as you mentioned, it is really very astonishing that some countries would not accept the calculations of Hajj day or Arafah, while actually the Prophet ﷺ made the sunnah of fasting on Arafah. Arafah means that people are doing Hajj in Arafah. So when you fast another day, it means that you are not accepting the Hajj of the others. So really, this is a sad habit that every country would calculate the months according to different way. Now, this would really aid the idea of unifying the lunar calendar in all Muslim countries in one calendar.
Okay, Prof, I think we don't have to make it any bit longer. When you look at the presentation, it was wonderful, and we have recorded and we shared the recorded presentation with others who could not attend it today through Zoom. So I see this very important, and it is required, especially for contemporary Muslim scholars, in order to respond to these challenges that we are facing when it comes to the unity of the Muslim Ummah. And when I look at the main aim of the International Institute for Muslim Unity, it is the unification of the Muslims, whether they are minorities or majority Muslim countries. And what you have mentioned, your experience like in England that you mentioned, I mean, different times we had different celebrations. So that is very sad. So may Allah bless you, Prof, for this wonderful talk that you have shared with us today. So I believe that this will not be the end of this series of talks. I believe that we don't need this kind of perspective, because the problem that we face, we might have a Muslim scholar today that he's very well equipped in Islamic background, but he does not have that scientific background. So when I look at your expertise, Barakallah Fiqh, Prof, that I see that you have both these backgrounds, you are well equipped, therefore you provided this kind of knowledge that can create a balance as well as provide what is required for our time. And it is very relevant to our time. And this is one of the weaknesses that we face today. So whether we like it or not, maybe that can be one of the reasons why we are divided instead of unifying ourselves, because we don't have the right expertise in order to provide solutions related to the problems that we are facing today in different aspects. But this is very specific and very important aspect that you have shared with us today. So before we end, I would like to thank once again you, Prof, personally. Of course, we'd like to thank Prof Akram, and it's not that we just mentioned, but I'm very happy that when I came to know that you are his father, mashallah. So I see that a great, scholar came out from what you shared with us. We are very happy. So, beside that, we'd like to thank the IMO management, of course, Prof Dawood, who is the director of IMO, who facilitated this since the beginning, and he was very supportive to these ideas. And I remember that there are many discussions since the beginning that I came to know you and when we met the first time. So I'm very happy that we had the chance to listen from you, Prof. As I mentioned, this is not going to be the last. I do believe that we can have other talks related to this scope of discussion. So I don't know whether Prof. Akram would like to say anything before we close.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Fatmir, for chairing this session. Well done. Alhamdulillah, Jazakumullah khair. So, and thank you very much, Prof. Muhammad Zaki Khader, for this talk. Well done, Alhamdulillah, Jazakumullah khair. And thanks for all participants for being here with us today. Jazakumullah khair. Barakallahu alaikum. Wassalamu alaikum.
Barakallah fiqh. Anything that you'd like to say, Prof. Muhammad Zaki, before we close?
Thank you very much. No, thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome, Prof. Let us close by Tasbih Kafara and Surah Al-Asr. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik. Ashhadu la ilaha illa anta. Astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Barakallah fiqh, and thank you very much to all the participants. So Jum'ah Mubarakah, and may Allah make it easy, inshallah. Okay, fi amanillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.